Chapter 23. When I opened my eyes, I was in my living room. Though everything looked right, something felt wrong. My hands flew to my stomach, but it was no longer large and bulging. It was flat and soft, as if it had never held a baby. Hope? I raced into the guest room that JD and I had turned into a nursery. But it wasn't a nursery. It was still a guest bedroom. The walls were still white, not the lavender JD had painted them for Hope. The roll-top desk I had inherited from my grandfather was where the dresser should be, and the black futon couch was in the place of the crib. Clapping my hand over my mouth, my eyes darted around. What's going on? Fear massaged my shoulders, and I backed out of the room. Nothing appeared out of place in the hallway, but in the kitchen, no sonograms hung on the fridge. I bolted to the bedroom. There was no picture of JD and I on the nightstand, nor was my Bible in its prominent place. The front door lock clicked, and I raced back to the living room. Rooted to the spot, I watched the lock turn and the door open, and then I gasped. It was Daniel, and not JD. What are you doing here? He glared at me as he threw his coat on the couch and his wallet on the hall table. Cut the crap, Callie. I live here. Remember? Have you been drinking again? Drinking? What are you talking about? I haven't had a drink since I found out I was pregnant. Pregnant? Are you pregnant again? His face flamed red, and he took a menacing step toward me. No, when I found out I was pregnant with Hope. 9 months ago. Who's Hope, Callie? The baby. The one you didn't want? The one you said I should abort? You did have an abortion, Callie. He rolled his eyes and plunked down on the couch, as if this was a conversation we had had many times. What? No, I wouldn't have. I couldn't have. I remember going, but then I talked to Sandra and I decided not to. I remember getting bigger and feeling her move. I saw her ultrasound. He sighed. I know, you babble about it nearly every night when you toss and turn in bed, but you did have the abortion, and then you changed. What do you mean? Look at yourself. He pointed a finger at me and I looked down. I was standing in a bathrobe. You quit your job, you stay home and drink all day, and now I honestly think you're going crazy. It happened. I sucked in my breath and collapsed in a nearby chair. What? I became one of the 80%. What are you talking about? He wasn't listening, though. He had picked up the remote and was surfing through the channels on the TV. The 80% that suffer mental health problems after an abortion, I said. Remember I told you about these abortion statistics when I didn't want to give up the baby? And you said it wouldn't happen to me. But it did. Well, whatever the reason, you need help, Callie. I won't stick around forever trying to clean up this mess. In fact, maybe I'll go see Shayna. He leaned back on the couch with his hands behind his head and shot me a challenging look. It should have made me angry, but instead it calmed every nerve in my body. You probably already have been. I get the feeling you aren't ready to be tied down to just one woman. Finally, you understand. Smiling, he planted his feet on the coffee table. I was so tired of coming up with lies. It really is exhausting, And men aren't meant to stay with just one woman. We need flavors. He resumed clicking the remote. Now maybe we can work out a plan, like I spend weekdays here with you and weekends with her, or maybe a 3-4 split. Maybe we can even spend a few nights together with all 3 of us. Swallowing the disgust that rose in my throat, I bit my lip to keep the unclean words I had for him from leaving my mouth. I've got a better idea. I flashed a tight smile at him. Why don't you take your stuff and spend every day with her? Be realistic, Callie. He didn't even glance up at me. You're a mess. I can't leave you here alone. My eyes narrowed and I placed my hands on my hips. I'm going to give you 10 minutes, and then I'm going to call the cops. The chill in my voice grabbed his attention and he glanced up. Look, I'll go tonight, but I'm serious, Callie. You can't be alone. So I'll be back tomorrow and we'll get you some help. I picked up his coat and wallet and held them out to him. Leave. The word came out as 2 syllables, both accented forcefully and with as much hate as I could muster. Whatever, he said, pushing himself off the couch. You're too much work anyway. He grabbed his things and stormed out of the apartment. As the door slammed shut, I sank down on the couch and covered my face with my hands. I knew this wasn't the path I had chosen, but how did I leave this reality? The silence in the apartment began to close in on me, and I reached for my Bible. Only it wasn't on the table. A quick glance revealed it was nowhere in the living room. My eyes darted back and forth as I tried to remember where it might be. Then I remembered where I had found it the first time. Racing back into the bedroom, I bent down and looked on the nightstand. There it was, coated in dust, just as before. As I picked it up, peace flowed through me, but I still had no idea how to get back to the reality I knew. I pulled my cell phone from my pocket and called my mother. "How long has it been, Mom?" I asked as soon as she answered. "Well, hi, Callie. How long has it been since what?" I sat on the bed and picked at the robe. "Since I had the abortion, Mom. How long?" 9 months, Callie. Your baby would have been born any day now. Are you still having dreams? Is that why you're calling?" My mother sighed on the other end. "No, or I don't think so anyway. Mom, I'm not supposed to be here. Or at least not this here. See, I didn't abort Hope. I kept her. But I developed preeclampsia. Something went wrong during the C-section and I ended up here. But I'm not supposed to be here." The words tumbled out in a rush. "Callie, I think you are suffering from grief over your choice. Now, I love you, but I did not love that decision. I would have loved a grandchild, and you robbed me of that. But I'm praying to God to forgive you, and you should pray for forgiveness too. I also think it's time you got some professional help." My forehead wrinkled, but I stayed silent at my mother's accusation. I had no words to convince her, and I was beginning to be unsure myself. "Okay, Mom, I will. Thanks." I hung up the phone and stared at it for a minute. What can I do? JD's handsome face popped into my head. He would be able to help me. I punched in the cell number I had long ago memorized and tapped my leg as it rang. "Hello?" a female voice answered. My mouth opened and closed, unable to form a word. I hung up the phone and dropped it as if it were a hot coal. Of course, JD was with someone. In this reality, the last time he saw me was in the Caribbean with Daniel. Picking up the Bible, I hugged it to my chest. Now that I had tasted it, a world without JD and without hope held no meaning. Is this how it would have been, God? Would my life have been so empty? I lay back, closed my eyes, and prayed for this nightmare to be over.